This next review was requested by Arthur, and it's a follow-up to an earlier review I did for Valkyria Chronicles, but this time, it's Valkyria Chronicles 4. Might as well review the long-awaited sequel to one of Sega's best series. I can't believe it took them this long just to make it, but I'm still scratching my head at the title when 4 is just the second game. Yeah, I know, there were the PSP games, but I never got to play them, and I heard they weren't as good as the original game. Then there was also a spin-off called Valkyria Revolution, an action RPG which didn't do well with a lot of people. Many just wanted a proper sequel on a home console, and that was eventually what we got. Development began in 2015 with director Kohei Yamashita, who was part of the production of Valkyria Revolution, and the game was released 3 years later on multiple platforms, including the Nintendo Switch. Now, the only question remaining is, how will this game's story compare to the first game? Can this entry still have some of that same flair with its story and characters, despite having different directors and producers? Well, let's raise the banners of war and see for ourselves. Like with 3, this game takes place roughly around the same time as the first game, but instead of focusing on Gallia, we're turning to the Federation. The same Federation that tried to kidnap Princess Cordelia to get someone else in power, and the same Federation that tried to absorb Gallia. Anyway, we're directed to a few characters from a division called Squad E. Their commander is Claude Wallace, voiced by Max Mittelman. He isn't as quirky as Welkin from the first game, but he does go on about the wind and such.
A shift in the wind. There.
Huh? You getting those wind whispers again? Imperials incoming!
And I guess his crew are used to it, since they are winning battles, so why mess with a good thing? We then cut over to an actual war zone where we get our tutorial, and it goes over a lot of the game's mechanics like in the first game. Everything from the UI, the controls, the gameplay, the graphics is also carried over from Valkyria Chronicles 1. You spend command points to take control of units who themselves have action points, or AP, to move around and fight enemies with whatever weapons they have. Generally, headshots are the way to go. There are different unit types, though the biggest division is between infantry and vehicle units. Infantry are further split into scouts, who have a ton of AP to work with, shock troopers, who have good attack power that can be spread apart to multiple enemies clumped together, lancers, the long-range tank busters, engineers, who are there to service or supply your other units, and the snipers, who are practically the strongest unit in the game given their range and terrifying headshot power.
Fight! Didn't take much.
There is one more infantry type, but I'll save it for later. At the moment, you only have one vehicle unit, the Hafen. It's a large tank, though not as large as the Edelweiss from the first game, but it can be directed with just one CP, so you don't have to pour your whole turn on just ordering around that one tank. Then there are orders that can help your units fight better, and once you gain access to upgraded orders, you can break the game if you play your cards right. But for now, there is still strategy to be had than just rush on through. But I do like the option since I want to aim for the highest mission grade possible. A plurality of the missions you do just wants the enemy main camp captured, though there are plenty of other scenarios with different win conditions. You lose when you lose your own main base is taken, or if certain characters under your control die. But like with Fire Emblem and its permadeath system, you're probably more liable to just restart the scenario and adjust your tactics. Anyway, Claude's squad mates include many randos with varying designs and abilities that you can choose to bring along. They all fit certain roles that can be useful in the right moments, though that also means that they'll flounder in other scenarios. Our main characters include Darkson Shock Trooper Raz, voiced by Greg Chun, who's quite the hothead.
Hell yeah! With this much heat, the imps are gonna feel the burn.
Next is Kai Shulin, voiced by Erica Mendez. He's the main sniper of the team, a pretty cool person all around, and his banter with Raz is pretty enjoyable.
Are you really getting tripped up over some common foot soldiers? Why don't you ever stop and think...
Oh, shut up! Just hurry and take him out, will ya?
Thought you'd never ask.
Okay, but really, this is actually Kai's sister Lena, who's taking his place. But the higher-ups don't know that, and her other squad mates are covering for her, so shh. We'll get to the actual Kai later. Driving the Hoffman is Miles Arbeck, voiced by Chris Hackney. He's not as interesting as his counterpart Isara from the first game, but he is still a relatively good guy who looks up to Claude. There's one more member to be introduced, but we'll get there. The group also has this dog companion named Rags, short for Ragnarok, who sometimes appears with the squad nurse, Karen. Their main goal is to pick up the characters you rescue in the heat of battle, and you want to do some rescuing because that ups morale. You can go through the story of your team in book mode, but instead of having those adventures written in a history book, they're in a diary that Claude carries with him, which makes sense because these events weren't common knowledge. Anyway, we then meet our rival character, Minerva Victor, voiced by Alexis Tipton. She's a redhead with the personality to match. We learn that the Empire is currently holding a third of the Federation territory. The Federation responds by sending squads like yours to start a secret operation. Operation Northern Cross. The goal is to capture the capital of the Empire, which can end the war before the bodies pile up. Narrating all this is Jameson Price, and I can dig it.
6 million soldiers fought in this campaign. It claimed more lives than any other in the Second European War. Federation historians call it the Eastern Theater, but the Empire knows it as the War for the Motherland.
Sounds like the makings of an epic war story. The first game kept its themes and plot points inside one nation. Here, the story is told on a larger scale, but that doesn't take away from the human experiences of that conflict. For now, your crew likes their chances of winning, but they come across an enemy fortress packed with long-range defenses. How can they get close enough without being shelled?
Looks like you're in a tight spot, Cinderella.
Wait, Cinder, what now? This sure as hell ain't a fairy tale!
I'd love to get to the ball at the castle, but I don't even have a pumpkin, let alone a carriage.
Well, I am no godmother, but I can work some magic for you.
Well, that's some way of getting correspondence. This is Riley Miller, voiced by Kaylee Mills. She's your first Grenadier, which is a unit introduced in this game. They hit from long range like snipers, and their mortars can do spread damage if enemies are grouped up enough. Further upgrades can make their shots damage or stun vehicles, but units can counter this by hiding under cover. Grenadiers also need a lot of time to set up their weapon after they move, and until they do, they are sitting ducks. It's worth noting that their creation was inspired from a bug in the first game where a tank would sometimes fire grenades. It was such a memorable air that this property would later show up in this game, so it was nice of them to do it. Anyway, your team manages to conquer the fortress and get that long-range weapon, only for the enemy to blow it up before you can use it. Oh well, time for a more formal introduction to Riley. She's actually from Gallia, just like you and the other main characters, but is good friends with everyone, except Claude.
Is that all you have to say? I can't believe I took orders from this coward. Screw that!
Yeah, her beef is explained over time. For now, we get shown to headquarters and...
Oh, those are Navy uniforms! That's a surprise. Check out the ass on that one! I'd swab her deck.
Yeah, this is where we level up classes to get new orders and battle potentials for them. We can also upgrade the tank with natural stats or with parts that we must all fit inside a grid system. We can switch in and out any units on reserve, change equipment, but no cemetery area this time, because your units are on the move throughout the story. You only get one after you beat the game. At any rate, Riley announces that she will transfer out of the group because she is still wary of Claude. His subordinates try to defend him, but I guess you gotta prove her wrong. You get this chance in the next mission, which takes place in a foggy town. You are looking for enemy tanks without falling for fake ones. only to run into radio problems. Claude tells the snipers to shoot at these clock towers to spell out the numbers 715 or July 15th, and that's enough information for Riley to know where she should aim with her mortar. This mission is also where enemy Ace characters return. They're tougher than the average trooper, but killing them gives you unique weapons that could be useful. At any rate, Riley is impressed with Claude's ingenuity under fire, so she decides against transferring. It seems like July 15th meant something to both of them.
Remember how excited we'd get for the Star Child Festival? We'd all run up the clock tower, and the first 5 kids to reach the top would ring the bell. I remember the winners got to wear a Star Child medal. And every year you wore yours with pride. I always looked up to you.
I loved that festival. Almost as much as I loved winning.
Well, that's good. No doubt this will lead to some sort of S-rank relationship down the line, but uh-oh, that town we took is on fire. How did this happen?
Set fire to the city so we couldn't take it. They pretended to withdraw but left agents inside.
How could they? There are still civilians in there.
Did the communications officers make it out?
The whole city was doused with napalm. Once the flames started spreading, it was already too late.
No. No!
Riley, get a hold of yourself.
Fire. No! Dad!
Hey, stay with me. This isn't Hoffman. Your dad's not in there.
Oh, dead dad situation? I wonder what that's about. Well, for now, we get our first interlude chapter. It's a prologue set a year before this game with the actual Kai Shulin. He seems like a rather cool guy who tries to make Raz less of a hothead, who by this point in time was also not a fan of Claude.
Get running! I want 100 kilometers!
Sure, whatever you want. Sign me up, long as I don't have to listen to him.
Of course, part of his hate came from Claude's origins in the upper class, while Raz and Kai grew up in the slums. This is probably the closest to Darkson discrimination we get in this game. But either way, Claude has to find a way to connect with Raz during a special training session. One that if they succeed, they'll end up in the Ranger Corps. It starts off with Raz acting on his own while the rest of the team captures enemy bases. But when taking said bases are out of reach without him, Claude decides to say what needs to be said to get the guy on his side.
If our squad's going to win, we need you.
What?
You can do whatever you like later. Hit me, yell at me, whatever helps. So please. All right, everyone. Once Raz begins his charge, we cover him with all the firepower we've got. Raz can shut down the snipers and machine guns and keep us all safe. Let's move out.
What the? Hey, wait a goddamn minute. I never said I...
With that, you can use Raz to defeat the AT units while everyone else gets the final camp. All things considered, he at least admits that your strategy worked this time.
Hey, look, don't go thinking you're hot shit now, alright? You're still not ready to be commander, got that? So, when you can't do it alone, just ask me, or Kai, or any of the others, and we can help. We're all badasses here, right?
What a pal. Also, Kai gives Claude the diary we see throughout the game. And then, through their experiences in the Ranger Corps, that would lead to the creation of Squad E, a ragtag bunch of misfits and losers. Wait. If I had a nickel every time I saw a class of misfits represented by the letter E, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that the name carried over that many times. Anyway, Chapter 3 gives us character interactions, including Raz getting into a brawl with not Kai, and Claude looking up Riley's skirt accidentally.
No, Riley! I swear, I didn't mean to... I didn't mean...
Then we get a scouting mission in the rain. Even Claude is out there as a scout unit. Once that's done, Claude reminisces about when he fought Raz one time, the reason why Raz quit smoking, only to be interrupted by some Imperial soldiers looking around. In this situation, Raz does the sensible thing.
See? Look at him run!
Claude talks him down since he can't do this without help, but it's too late for them to get back safely. They then use a special flare to get the attention of their squad mates, Now they have to sort out this mess while Raz and Claude get the hell out. It's a neat detail that the same units from last mission carry over to this one. Also, environmental destruction is back, so use that. Once everyone is safely back at base, they reminisce a little more, leading to the main story for why Claude wasn't well liked. It all started at the Miller factory. Not for beer, where Riley's family was murdered by a mysterious agent from the Imperial Army. The whole place goes up in flames, and Claude restrains Riley from going back there. This is also where the Scaredy Claude nickname came from, which goaded Claude into a fight with Raz, which put him in the hospital, before signing up for the War Academy. This was when he promised that the tragedy would never happen again.
Shit, and here I was gonna apologize to you.
Like I said, you killed the old me. When I came back, I promised myself I would change.
I wish Kai had heard all that. Maybe then she wouldn't think I'm such a bad guy.
Raz might be a bit of a douchebag when it comes to women, but he's a lot more than a hothead, which leads to interesting banter between him and Claude. Anyway, we arrive at the Sigvol Line, the last stop before going into Imperial territory for Operation Northern Cross. Here is where we're introduced to Dan, voiced by Keith Silverstein. He drives an Armored Personnel Carrier, or APC, and its weak machine gun is compensated by its ability to ferry around multiple units. This is very helpful in the following mission, since we have to deal with pillboxes that can pick off units traveling on foot. But even with our success, Squad E is told to get moving to intercept the enemy by capturing a foothill, making this earlier success pointless. At least Raz thinks so, and Minerva seems to have lost some squad members as well. But Claude doesn't want to think that their actions were in vain. So once they do take the hill, Raz gets cocky and decides to chase some stragglers. Not Kai tries to reel him in, but...
Kai! No! Son of a bitch!
Damn good aim for someone who shoots wildly, and you know it's serious when he has to use her real name. This leads to a rescue mission, except now we have to deal with our main enemy tank character for the game. Meet Klaus Walls, voiced by Ray Chase. He's the leader of the Oshborok tank platoon, which is filled with some advanced looking tanks. You can't do much to him for now, but Riley has some special ammo to slow him down. And slowing him down is good, since his tank can shoot while moving, making him one of the more dangerous enemies we faced. This mission also introduces a new mechanic, the Last Stand. When a unit starts losing HP, this could lead to boosted stats for a nearby ally, or an extra action before going down. Cool concept, but it doesn't happen a whole lot, sadly. Either way, once you figure out the best way of getting to Raz, Walls retreats and the mission is over.
If we just ignore our superior's command, then...
Who cares? I bought them plenty of time. They should be thanking me.
Huh?
Did you really think this is about some wall of iron? We've got another hot date tonight anyway. Let's head to the real one.
Yeah, Walls is certainly unique with how he treats Squad E. Luckily, not Kai's injury isn't too bad and she'll recover with enough time, but Raz is still feeling guilty for what he got her into. And now he knows how everyone feels about his shenanigans. They're not asking him to get dismissed, but they are hoping that he manages to be a little more sensible now. He seems to get the memo, and we even get a little snippet from his radio conversation.
Should have known Mr. Valedictorian's got it covered. Thanks, Claude.
Riley talks to Kai about how she got this way, then it turns to a longer talk about how they were so different in the past, yet still the same in some ways. They're thinking about the next deployment, but Minerva tells them that the enemy has retreated. Now it's a beeline to the capital. Everyone gets a little downtime as they wait on the higher-ups. The Empire has been really quiet these few days, so our heroes pass the time by gathering supplies. There's a town they visit for Raz to get his 3 Bs.
All right, bacon, beer, and babes.
He ends up going with Kai and Miles, while Claude and Riley get some alone time together. I mean, they weren't on great terms after their first meeting in years, so it makes sense to catch up. The townsfolk are willing to interact with the soldiers, but some don't want to get caught up with the possible bloodshed from either the Federation or the Empire. except this one shopkeeper who sells Imperial parts that were left behind. He also gives some rumors about a winter witch further up north who can cause things to freeze around her.
That's fine. This war will be over before the first frost. Besides, it's just another fairy tale.
Tempting fate, are we? Still, nice guy. Hope nothing bad happens to him. Meanwhile, Raz's group is looking for bread and bacon, but they were all bought up by someone named Crystal, who's a part of Minerva's Squad F. Both sides argue about who gets the food until their leaders show up.
All of it was purchased out of my own pocket. Is it a crime to support local businesses?
It is when other people go hungry because of it. Where's that covered in your code of chivalry?
Not only that, it may stir up anti-Federation sentiments from the townspeople.
I got nothing. So there is one way to settle this. A war game to pick who gets the supplies. Yes, this is actually happening. I'm sure the townsfolk will understand this. And did they really have to do this exercise with their tanks? Anyway, your team wins the drill despite the other side having their own tank called Glory, which will come back later. This is also where you notice a difficulty spike since enemies can now issue their own orders to buff their troops. Of course, another useful mechanic on your side is one which lets units follow leader characters like Raz. This is incredibly handy when moving multiple units to where you want them to go, and they can be used in team attacks when you attack closely with them. There's one character who makes this incredibly useful, but we'll get to that later. Claude eventually chooses to split the food with Minerva's squad. Both teams mingle and looks like everything is good and going, until...
It's snow.
Winter already?
That day, we were ambushed by the one enemy we feared more than any other. A fall of snow, far earlier than we'd ever suspected.
You just had to jinx us, Riley. So yeah, out of the blue, winter has arrived early. So everyone is waiting on winter gear that hasn't arrived yet. Claude and Minerva decide to move their troops north before the snowing gets even worse. And as for supplies...
If we don't have supplies, then we'll get supplies. Confiscation, pillaging, whatever it takes.
That's how desperate things are getting. Of course, they get a transmission from the front line, and well...
Commander! Our scouts found the enemy! There's so many! Multiple tanks and... What's going on? Get me a sit-rep!
Well, talk about a surprise attack. More reason to get moving again. Claude and company begin an evac mission to get allies out of harm's way, which leads to a really hard scenario that includes taking enemy bases. Walls also shows up, and there might be a bug that messes with your weapon loadouts, even though you might have equipped them with something else in an earlier mission. In this case, Riley, who I'm sure I gave her the anti-tank mortars, isn't using them to stall walls as he goes after our fleeing allies.
Always thought I'd die. Under tank treads. Not like this.
So much for my perfect record. Oh, and one of Walls' orders helps his troops move forward and fire, which is total bullcrap. But you survive the onslaught and regroup with whatever is left of your units you saved. I guess one loss was enough for the Empire to turn things around. Now the commander is telling Claude to avoid all settlements and roads as Squad E heads west and away from the capital. We don't know why they're doing this, but this is for the good of the operation. As we move farther away from town, we spot something ominous hanging on a pole.
Riley, don't look!
That's the old man from the parts shop.
Aw, damn it, why'd you have to die? Again, this game doesn't shy away from the brutality of war. Meanwhile, Walls is obsessing about Squad E and is really chomping at the bit to find them, despite orders telling him not to.
We're Ausbrook, my friend. They know they can't tame us.
But we can't keep disobeying all our orders.
They'll look the other way. They need me too much.
He seems similar to that Jaeger guy from the first game, even if Walls turns out to be a bit of a womanizer. Not the worst kind, but you know what I mean. As for us, we talk about our hometown of Hoffen to pass the time while we deal with the cold. Riley dreams about reopening her family's factory after it got burned down.
All right, now I got a job lined up after I leave the army. No one goes hungry at the Miller Company.
Of course, more enemies show up, so the next mission involves getting 3 units to the goal before any of them are defeated. In this environment, falling can lead to a faster death, but also avalanche! I do love the kind of environmental hazards in this game. You don't see a whole lot of winter settings in the other Valkyria games, at least as far as I know of, and this one does a good job of showing how harsh and dangerous it is. It took me a few tries to beat this level, but once I did, it ended with our heroes finding train tracks that lead to the mountains. Minerva says that the other Federation troops are waiting on the coast, and this is where squads E and F part ways. During a break, Riley and Raz spend time talking about Claude. Riley still isn't completely over what happened in the past, however...
Damn it, Riley. Can't you just accept the guy already?
I have. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come this far. And that goes for everyone in the squad. Not just me. We've been retreating with barely any equipment or supplies, but not a single soldier is deserted. Claude's the one pushing this squad forward. He's the one keeping everyone together.
At least she is paying attention. For now, Claude and Kai find a logistics base with a railway leading straight to Gallia. This might be connected to that one mine that doubled as a Darkson concentration camp in the first game. Our heroes discuss their options, and Claude decides to just take the base. It's their chance to refresh their supplies too, so why not take a chance? So like that one mine mission from the first Valkyria, you'll have to deal with trains that come by whenever your units get close to the tracks. By rerouting them with switches, they can't drop off enemy units, since they'll just go through the area without stopping. There's only one train the whole time, but it's not too difficult otherwise. It also helps that as you progress through the game, skirmishes unlock, and it's easy to 1-turn or 2-turn them, so you get a lot of experience and money. And believe me, I do not pass up on the extra money and experience. The victory improves morale, and all that's left to do is march onto the coast and reunite with everyone. As Squad E starts marching, they start to sense the ocean nearby. They make one last push, but when they get there... What the frick? Apparently the troops fought off an ambush who are now chasing down stragglers, but Minerva pretty much lost her entire squad in the process, including Crystal.
You swore you'd stay with me as long as I was on the battlefield. It has been my greatest honor to keep that promise, Crystal. Crystal! God... damn it! Ah! You! Where the hell have you been? What took you so long?
If I were to say fighting Imperials who were in our way, would that help?
You know what we've been doing? We've been fighting! Even outnumbered by tanks, even underarmed, even with no supplies. We fought, damn it! And this is what we got for it! And now, with the enemies gone and our blood in the snow, now Squad E strolls in? Crystal died because of you. Squad F's blood is on your hands!
She's got a point, but again, this situation was out of our hands. Still, she is right to be crushed given the strong bond she had with her group. Walls and his platoon show up to finish us off. However...
That wind... it's coming off the sea.
Holy shit! Cannon fire! All tanks scatter! Go!
Oh hell Hell yeah, the Navy has arrived! Claude and group stare in awe at the wondrous sight before them. Even he says,
The morning sun had risen, and none of us even saw the light. All we saw was the majesty bearing down upon us.
This excitement is far too great to be contained to just one video, so come back after a couple more videos where I hope to finish this in part 2.